I do work for a company called Blackrock. And for those who don't know, Blackrock is an asset manager. And right now we manage about $4.7 trillion in assets. We have 12,000 employees in 30 different countries. I've been there for about 8 years in a number of different roles. And in April of 2013, I started what we now call the Blackrock Meditation Program. It's not my full-time job, it was my contribution to the firm. And the program started with 65 people in New York and has since grown to almost 1,400 in 30 different cities in 17 countries. So the program members include everyone from the most senior to the least senior, men, women, every business unit, every function, every role, every region. And the program itself contains a couple components. One are weekly meditation sessions that I run during the course of the day that are about 30 minutes long, but anyone can come in and join. We have conference rooms around the world, and people either come in person or they dial in if they're in a different zip code or area code, or if they're at home or on the road. And that's accessible to everyone. They're recorded and available even after they happen live. The second aspect of the program are weekly emails that I'll send out that have tips and resources, videos, articles, so that people can really build their practice on their own. The third component is we bring in guest teachers, teachers that can bridge the gap between mindfulness and business. And the fourth component's a bit newer. I'll tend to speak at some internal leadership offsites. So really talking about what is mindful leadership, how does it show up at Blackrock? Now, at Wisdom 2.0 Business in October, I went through the program in a lot of detail. I spent 10 minutes talking about why it started, how all these parts work together. And then I spent another 10 minutes talking about what were the 5 lessons I learned. Because there were a lot of people in that audience who were interested in creating a program in their companies or consulting with companies and who wanted to start a meditation program. Today, I thought I'd talk about something slightly different, give you a different lens into what meditation at Blackrock is. So it's not necessarily the nuts and bolts, the practical stuff, but really, how do we bridge the gap between meditation, mindfulness, presence, and business, performance, results, stress, engagement? Because there are some industries and there are some companies for which it makes a lot of sense. They get it. Many of them might be in this room. But there are other companies and industries and people for whom this is a very large gap and they don't understand how they're related. So I'll tell you a little bit about what I tell them. And I usually start with the mind. And I say, okay, the mind does 2 things really well when I'm talking to a group of people or an individual. The mind goes back into the past and it regurgitates and rehashes and relives our past experiences. And sometimes we feel emotions associated with that, guilt, regret, nostalgia. And it goes into the future and it plans and it strategizes and it anticipates. And sometimes we feel emotions going along with that, whether it's anxiety or hope or anticipation or excitement. And people in high-performance environments, they get this. They tend to get to these environments because they've been very future-oriented. They've been goal-oriented from a very young age. They have set goals way in the future, and they tend to consistently achieve them. But they do that because they often go back in the past. And they go, okay, well, what worked last time? What didn't work? How do I take what I know and apply it to the future so that I can get the results I want? So they become very practiced at going backwards and then going forwards, past, future. And they miss the now. They miss the moment. And so when you bring this to people's attention, some people go, oh yeah, well that makes sense. I can get with that. That makes sense. That resonates. And so then you start to talk about creating the distinction with, it's not bad to be performance-oriented. It's not bad to be future-oriented. It's about being deliberate and intentional about when you're doing that. And it's really important that we don't make performance wrong here or setting goals wrong here. And the reality is we also have to show the power of what happens when you can be grounded, when you can be in the present moment. And so people start to understand and they say, so I'll tease it out a little bit more and I'll say, how many times has it happened where you've been thinking about something that's already happened, or you'd be anticipating something that hasn't yet happened and your body's going to feel stressed? And everyone, raises their hand and senior execs will go, yeah, that makes sense. Your body is having a stress response related to something that's not even happening in the present moment. And my hypothesis is stress is a massive inhibitor to performance. Massive stress is an inhibitor to performance. So then we start to talk a little bit about stress. And stress is also a topic that people in high-performance environments really understand. They're used to it. They're used to tight deadlines, high expectations, not a lot of resources, and the need to consistently deliver over and over again. And so they get used to stressful deadline, stressful environment, performance, and often reward. Stressful environment, performance, reward. It becomes habituated. They get used to it. So much so that stress and performance or productivity become collapsed. They think it's their edge. They think they need it. And if you were to remove stress, they're afraid they're going to lose their edge. They're going to lose their performance. They're going to lose their productivity. So what I try and do is show them that they really can be uncoupled. And we start to talk about the science of stress. What happens to your body? What happens to your brain? We talk about neuroplasticity. We talk about how productivity and performance increases when your body's in a state of regulation as opposed to a stress response. And so they start to resonate with that, and they go, okay, well, what's a resource to manage stress? And I usually say, aha, I have one. Meditation. Let's try it. And so I can talk a little bit how I frame various meditation practices. I think I'll leave that to the Q&A because I want to touch on something slightly broader, which I think is important when we talk about bringing mindfulness to business. And it's the idea of resources. Meditation, mindfulness is one of many resources. But we need to reevaluate how we talk about resources in the business place. So many people are habituated to thinking of resources as external to them. It's money, power, contacts, credentials, education, all these things that they need to acquire and hold on to. And they're valuable. They really are. I'm not saying that they're wrong either, but they're not the whole story. There are internal resources that we need to start to cultivate in our work settings. And that might be resilience, focus, compassion, the ability to shift how you're relating to your thoughts, shift how you're relating to sounds, what your body sensations are. And what we need to do is expand the definition of resources, because when people understand that they have a capacity and a set of resources that they walk out of the room with, that can be incredibly empowering. Often I'll end a meditation session reminding people that whatever state they've brought themselves to, whether it's awareness, presence, relaxation, or even something more neutral, they brought themselves to it themselves. They don't need me, they don't need an app. Those might help, and those also aren't wrong. But that the capacity to be aware is within them, and they carry it around with them as they go about their days. And the reason that is so important, to build this awareness of internal resources, this understanding that I walk around with these resources, is because I think they're critical to creating authenticity in the workplace. And why is authenticity important? It is a precursor to having engagement. So companies want engagement. They want engagement from their employees. But here's the thing, you can't buy engagement. You can buy someone's time, but you can't buy their engagement. You can't buy their passion. So think about the times when you've been really engaged, you've been really turned on about something. Maybe you're working on a presentation, maybe you're giving a presentation, maybe you're working on code, whatever you're doing, it's highly likely that in that moment you were feeling like you had authentic expression. There was something internal in you, your head, your heart, your gut, your soul, whatever, everything was aligned, and you were in an environment that supported that. Now, companies can't buy engagement, but they can create the conditions that allow for authenticity in the workplace. But here, it's not always obvious, not in some industries, not in some companies. I find that many people have a disconnect. Their personal life and their personal growth is separate from their work life and their career growth. They see them as parallel tracks as opposed to interwoven. So what I hope to do is try and give people resources so they can start to bring their authentic self to work. Because I believe when people operate from a place of authenticity, these are our visionary leaders. These are the people who have the power to inspire. But now behavior change isn't always easy, and we know that. Many of us have probably tried to change behavior. So if you're not used to bringing your authentic self to work, you need support. And this is where community comes in. If you think about people trying to change behavior, whether they're trying to quit smoking, quit drinking, lose weight, or do a triathlon, groups like Weight Watchers, AA, Team in Training, they are powerful because support and community is powerful. So the Blackrock meditation program has been powerful in creating this culture of authenticity. There are 1,400 people around the world who participate in some level. But when it comes to community, we need to remember that community starts with us. One individual, one person's actions, one person's practice, because that can inspire groups. And if enough groups come together, you really build a community. And the power of community is that it can change systems. So one person can be the catalyst to change a system. It starts with understanding that performance is not wrong. It's not wrong, it's a reality in the business place. And many people in a high-performance society or a high-performance culture, they aren't as practiced as being in the now. They aren't as practiced as being present. Stress is a massive inhibitor, in my opinion. And so providing them the resources, whether it's meditation or other resources, to help them manage their stress is tremendously powerful. But it does more than that. It gives them the power and the resources to be authentic. And with that authenticity, they can usually get engaged, and employees are excited about getting their human capital engaged. But underlying all that, what makes it stick and last is the sense of community. And the reality is, community can start with one person. Community could start with you. It should start with you. Thank you.